Off tonight and tomorrow night. They will be back on the court in Detroit at the Little Caesars Arena to play the Pistons on Thursday night. You'll hear that here on MMS, 7 o'clock tip-off. So 6:30, right after we roll out of here, is when your pregame coverage will begin. If you listen to our show from outside Ohio on the iHeartRadio app, a little premature, thank you, and tell me where you do that. Mark is one of our bureau chiefs in Bailey, Colorado. Brittany listens in Portland, Oregon. Chad is down in Thibodaux, Louisiana, and Zach is a new listener in Asheville, North Carolina. Alan, can we get a 2-22-22 for Tuesday? Talk up today. All right, everybody's making a big deal. Are you making a big deal about that because you're putting things out into the universe and that today's today's 2-22-22?
It's cool.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, what would I put in, what are you talking about?
Well, like, this is one of those days that astrologers make a big deal out of because it's, you're never going to believe this. They make a big deal because it's all the same number.
It's once in a lifetime.
Oh, it depends on how long you live. But it's right.
Now, does the universe use the calendar that we use?
Well, that's a really good question.
I
can only assume that it does.
I have a question about the universe.
Cut that clip, please. Please use that clip.
If anyone is likely to ask that question.
Yes, Cody?
Go for it.
We'll answer the best of our ability.
Uh-huh.
What?
We just heard you.
Okay.
There it goes.
Jesus.
That's the universe right there.
Sorry, I had to
Stopping
scream.
you
The
from
universe is like,
asking it.
nope.
Are
Keep
you,
my name out your mouth.
Alan, are you familiar with Bob Lazar?
Bob Lazar.
He's the guy that used to work in Area 51, I guess adjacent to Area 51, and he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I just find his documentary and his story so fascinating.
It's a conspiracy theorist.
He's not a conspiracy theorist. That's how they have to discredit him.
Oh, God.
Okay, but he is a guy who says that there's all kinds of extraterrestrial technology in Area 51. This literally Wikipedia refers to him as an American conspiracy theorist.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, okay, well, Wikipedia can be edited by anyone.
Anyway.
That is true. What if he put that in there? Because that's how he likes to be referred to.
But I just listened to his story. I don't.
Right.
I
All right. What's your question about the universe?
Is it? Well, first, are you familiar with Bob Lazar? And two, do you think that it's possible now that all the stories about UFOs over the years, like, were discredited? Now politicians are now talking about them. Do you think they exist, Alan?
Do I think that what Bob Lazar says exists at Area 51 in fact exists?
Yes.
I do not.
Why?
Because there have been a number of people who've come forward who work in the aerospace community. Now, obviously, anytime you talk about people who actually know things, the people who are into the conspiracies will go, well, that's what they're gonna say, man. But you know,
but who's
it seems much, again, in 2022, I would say, and this is what I've always said, there's simply no way that those things could remain secrets if, in fact, they were.
But they're not. They remain secret because people can say it and people won't believe it.
It's an NDA.
No, what I'm saying is there would be unequivocal proof of these things. The reason that people remain conspiracy theorists is because you never need an end to a conspiracy theory. New information you can always throw in, you can tie it in somehow.
Especially when you don't have to prove anything.
You don't ever have to prove anything, right?
That's why it's also very difficult to prove them wrong because you're trying to prove a negative, and that's difficult to do.
He said a lot of things that he already talked about are now coming true. Like he said, he worked at Area 51 back in the late 80s, early 90s, and before he said that the fuel that the UFO or whatever flying thing that they couldn't identify was fueled by did not exist. He was like, it doesn't exist in, like, as we know it, but it's a formula that we've never known before. So we call it Formula 151. Now that is now added to the periodic table. Like, it's now added as like an energy source.
Well, no, there's something called element 115.
150, I'm sorry.
That Russian scientists discovered a long time ago.
Not Formula 1.
It's a
Right.
technology.
I was thinking Bacardi 151 back in my old drinking days.
And see, this is why it's really tough.
watch the
right,
episode.
but again, that's not the same thing that he said he found. So
he didn't say he found it. He said it was in there. That was the
There's
fuel.
been, right.
Okay.
From what I've seen and read, there has been, yes, something called element 115 is on the periodic
I'm not
table.
going to watch it because
There's nothing that...
Fine.
I mean, listen, it's fun. I mean, for people, if you want to have fun and watch this stuff, yes. But these people are widely discredited.
But that's the thing.
The beauty, I know where you're going. That's the beauty of being a conspiracy theorist, is you never have to prove anything, and no one can ever prove you wrong.
But if you
because in order to prove someone wrong, you would have to have facts to disprove what they're saying. But you can't disprove a negative. So it's the perfect, being a conspiracy theorist it's why the word theory is in there. It's a theory. These aren't conspiracy factualists. That's the fun part. The people because there's always merch tied in. There's always a way to grift. That's why they have the Flat Earth Convention, so they can sell you square globes or whatever,
They're discs, man.
They're discs, whatever it is. I mean, so yeah, if you want to have fun, but I think you should enjoy those things if you want to watch them and enjoy them. I guess my question would be, what conclusion does that lead you to, though? Because as far as I understand, he hasn't shown any proof of anything.
Give it a smack.
Is he trying to talk again?
Yeah. Over on the side.
This is where we've gotten as we're waiting. This wait to get into our
goes.
new studios is getting more interminable by the day because we now have to just kick things like Fonzie to get them to work.
Hey.
Right.
No.
Yeah, see?
Sorry.
He has to overload the circuit on
Yeah.
this thing
Forget
to
it.
get
I'm not
it to...
gonna do it.
No. I hear you now.
For how long, though?
We don't know, but we can hear you now.
I can hear you now.
I'm not trying to blow up.
He's like the Verizon guy,
Right. Good.
resurrected.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to ruin people's days.
What conclusions do these kinds of things lead you to, is my question. That would be more interesting to me.
Well, that was my question to you, is exactly what you said, exactly what I thought you would.
That I defer to science and facts? Yes, that
but
will always be my answer.
He is a scientist, and he did operate off of facts. But if people want to keep something private, there is no way.
And this
That's
is
what classified information
This
is.
is the beauty of conspiracy theories.
But that doesn't mean it's a conspiracy theory.
There's just enough fact mixed in to make it impossible to determine what's fact and what's fiction. The facts are things that can be, scientifically at least, replicated, proven to exist. The conspiracy parts are where they the facts are a jumping off point from all this other nonsense, where they go, well, there's this and there's this. Okay. So there's a lot of people. It's impossible to have a conversation or to have any kind of debate, I should say. You can have all the conversations you want.
I understand what you're saying, but you happen to think that there isn't technology that we're not privy to that the government has.
Listen,
in order to make weapons.
You asked me what I thought, and that's what I think. What I think is, listen, I don't know anything about anything. All I'm saying is, I think in the 21st century, it would be near impossible to keep those things secret.
Yes, but
for those things to remain in the realm of conspiracy theory.
But they remain secret because even if someone was inside of the garage, wherever they're storing these things, if they took a picture, people like you would say, "Oh, that's Photoshop. That's not real." They can exist because
I would want to see them
for
operate. I would want to see them operate.
Yes, and people would say,
Don't you think that if all these things existed, someone would become an instant billionaire by proving that it was true, proving that there is life after death, proving that the earth is flat, proving that, you name it, check all the boxes, there would be somebody who would become an instant, they'd be the wealthiest person in the galaxy because they would have unequivocally proven something that goes beyond the realms of just conspiracy theory. It would be unequivocally proven and then over time proven to still exist in whatever state it was in.
But if they can't back engineer the technology, they can't prove, they can't.
Isn't that convenient? That certainly is convenient.
But we all know things happen.
What would they need to reverse engineer it? What does Bob Lazar say?
Bob Lazar says that when he worked on what was called some type of I forget what he called it, but he said it was some type of mechanism that had its own gravitational pull. Like when it was activated, you could not touch it for whatever reason. You could not touch this thing that was inside of a garage, and it came from a part of flying saucer or UFO. And
again, that might be true, but that has nothing to do with all of the other theories that explode from that. And the trouble that these people have, any of these people who come out and say, I worked at Area, and this is what we're studying, is that you're going to have a lot of their contemporaries and peers at the time go, hey, I worked with this guy, and that's not what we worked on at all.
Yes, because
But those people will be derided as they're keeping the secrets. They don't want people to find out.
But it is true. How do you...
My question is always this. Why do you not, every conspiracy theory starts with, this is what they don't want you to know. And the they is always a moving target. It's either some fakakta quilt of globalists and whatever, right? But what's the end game?
They always agree on it, though.
What would it
Whoever
be?
they are, they're always
unanimous
together,
in their consent. That's right. In their end goals, what would be the point of keeping it secret?
He said...
Because the point of all military technology is to make money. And these people would make money hand over fist.
Yes, but they can't replicate it. That's the problem. You think they don't want to make money off of it, or they don't want to use it as a weapon? That's why I'm saying...
But all they need is one. All they would need is one to monetize.
They don't know how to work it. They don't know how to operate it.
But you just said Bob Lazar worked on it.
He was trying to back engineer it. They're trying to figure out how it works, how they can replicate it.
Why wouldn't they release it into the world and avail themselves of the smartest people around the globe?
They do.
You know what? And so none of those people can figure it
But they
out.
keep it secret.
They had scientists come in and work on this because they're trying to figure out who could back.
But why not
engineer
make
this.
that? Why is all that done in secrecy?
Because it could be used.
Can you call it reverse engineer, not back engineer?
Reverse engineering is the process you're talking, right? Yeah.
Reverse engineer. What Bob Lazar said. That's why I'm saying is in this Joe Rogan episode. Whatever you think about Joe Rogan, I found this particular episode interesting.
That's great. Listen, I have no problem with people talking about things like that, but I mean, it's when it would be fun if they were like, look, this is what we've... Again, I haven't heard that episode, so I couldn't speak
I'm going
to
to tell you what he said. Long story short, the reason why it's not released to the public is because he said that type of power could rule the world. You're talking about something that no one knows how to operate, no one knows how to engineer or replicate, and if that just gets released to the public, you're talking about a device that has its own gravitational pull. Scientists don't know how to create their own gravity. We operate in the world's gravity. This thing creates it. It creates gravity. He said there is no wires connecting anything. No one knows how to make it go. No one knows how to operate it. And say someone, just a normal person...
But how are they turning it on then?
Again, I would think that this would be something that they would put out into the world and say, look, it's like when companies will
it can
hire...
be used as a weapon.
How do they know that? If it's an anti-gravity device, how does that immediately become a weapon?
Because they tried to shoot it, and it has its own force field. Like you can't.
But that doesn't make it a weapon. That makes it a force field.
But if someone wanted to use that for harm, and someone would try to.
But if no one knows how it works, how are they going to figure that out?
Yeah, if you're the one that figures out how to work, then go ahead, use it as a weapon. That's what we're going to try
people are
and do.
telling me you got to see Project Blue Book. I've seen Project Blue Book. I mean, there's all kinds of very interesting things that are out there. I mean, a lot of these things that guys like Rogan talk about, like Operation Paperclip and Alex Jones, all that stuff. Those aren't conspiracy theories. Those are things that are like, they've been documented for decades. These are not like things anyone's discovering. It's like military technology. Somebody makes a good point. They're like, military technology is always just a boring advancement of something they already have, right? There's not anything that's created overnight with new technology. It's something that they've been working on for 40 or 50 years, and they go, well, this is what we have. You'd think if they had something, and again, I don't know anything about anything.
Yeah, if you compare...
It would just seem to me to be human nature and the nature of the quote-unquote military-industrial complex, that if you had something like that, somebody in charge of that program would say, find me somebody who knows how to make this work.
That's how Bob got the job.
Publicly.
Why publicly? They don't want other countries knowing what type of stuff we have. We don't know if they have other UFOs, and they don't know. We don't know if they're trying to reverse engineer what they have and use it as a weapon. They keep all that stuff hush hush. Even military weapons. They keep.
Let me ask you.
Well, there's a lot of people texting me who believe Poundcake. They
of course watch the episode.
He's got to do it right. No, I know.
Did they bring up his? The fact that he was arrested for aiding and abetting a prostitution ring, because that's what I'm interested in.
Well, listen, one has nothing to do with the other. Just because he's aiding and abetting prostitution doesn't mean he doesn't already know what's going on.
The guy's got different chapters of his life, and I find one more interesting than the other.
Also, I mean, Bob Lazar is he is an interesting guy in that he doesn't come off as like a loony guy. So those are the people you want in your stable. You want people who are scientists, people who know how things work, who can go, well, we couldn't figure this out. All I'm saying is, I would think that whoever was in charge of whatever would have been on his side and said, look, let's...
Just the story that he told, it seemed very hard for me for someone, as descriptive as he was, it seems really weird that he could just make that up. And he has suffered...
But people do that all the time.
But he has suffered immensely for it. Like,
let's assume that he's not making any of it up. Does he talk to people about it just to talk about it?
There was a documentary.
How would all of his... and again, at the risk of sounding naive, I'm just saying that the world's a big place, and it's very, very difficult these days to suppress information. Suppressing information traditionally is what makes it get out more. But...
This is when in the late 80s, early 90s, before cell phones.
No, understood. I mean, that was a much easier time to do that. But if those things are still around, as the technology advances... I would imagine it becomes more difficult to keep things secret.
It is.
But let's assume that all of that is true. What is he doing now? What he's trying to get the word out about? People are lying to you? Is that what it is?
Well, he has suffered immensely. Like the government is trying to keep him hush hush because he actually, the story that he told again, which is in the episode, his wife was having an affair. Long story short, you had to have, I guess, the government or whoever was working with him there thought that the affair with his wife would distract him from the work that he was doing. So they dismissed him from the project. But he knew that people were doing test flights of these things, the UFOs or whatever. Some of them, they know how to work. Others, they don't. But he was doing test flights, or they were doing test flights. And while he was dismissed from that project, he still remembered what day they were doing them. So he brought friends of his to this testing site, and his friends were watching these things fly in the air. And I guess someone recorded some of it, which is on YouTube unless it's taken down or whatever.
Well, they released those videos a few years ago, and they said, these are unidentified flying
Navy
objects.
videos or whatever?
Yeah. And they said, we don't know what it is. But those have been out for a while.
Yeah, but what they're saying was they had how would he know the exact day, the exact time that these things were going up to fly? His friends witnessed it. His friends didn't know what they were. And it was supposed to be like a undercover project. Like they weren't supposed to let the public know about this because that technology falling into the wrong hands was dangerous.
Why didn't he shut his mouth then if you're not supposed to tell anybody?
Because
they fired him.
He said he is more protected by speaking out than staying silent, because if he didn't say anything, they can just get rid of him.
Why couldn't they get rid of him either way?
Because now he's drawn attention to it.
Well, it's like when these people these journalists who criticize Putin keep falling out of windows. Mm-hmm. There aren't any investigations into that. You know what I mean? If this guy disappeared tomorrow, the conspiracy theory wouldn't change at all. They would just add his death to the conspiracy theory. But that wouldn't prove or disprove anything.
But he brought friends that knew he wasn't lying. His friends recorded the flying things, and he told his friends...
These are civilians?
Civilians, yeah.
They're not going to let them anywhere near a site like that.
They were hiding behind a cactus.
Oh.
No,
they had cut
like a cactus.
They put their arms up into like a field goal position.
They had cut holes out of the daily newspaper. Right. They're in what's the Roswell? I kept thinking Roscoe. That's not. Well, listen, these are all things. Listen, I would much rather be a Mulder than a Scully. I think that stuff's all very interesting, and there's no shortage of information on that guy. So maybe I'll listen to that, or I'll watch one of these documentaries. But it's listen.
Whenever you have,
it's all fascinating. I'm just looking for something sticky. I mean, there's always people there, and there have been for a long, long time, saying these kinds of things.
Well, when you have a spare 2 hours, if you're not doing
Alan doesn't have 3 minutes to think.
He doesn't have to sit down and watch it. Just have it running while he's doing errands around the house, chasing a toddler.
Well, that strikes me as something you need to pay attention to. You can't half-ass listen to something where a guy's talking about reverse engineering alien technology.
Yeah, I was intrigued because it was crazy the way he was so descriptive about it, and I don't understand how he could just the technology that he was saying he was working on a reactor that is just it has its own force field.
Sounds like Poundcake's being an overreactor.
Yeah. But there's also people that can talk about the Starship Enterprise with as much detail.
Dilithium crystals. Yeah, but that's what makes any great storyteller. is the balance. And again, I'm not saying I haven't heard his stories, but that's what makes any great storyteller is a mix of details and fantasy, right? Where it gets real hard, in this instance, gets real hard to tell what's what.
He said he didn't believe it either. He said when he first saw it, he thought it was like an advanced fighter. He was like, this is what I've been seeing all these. These are where all the stories came from. These flying saucers are just advanced government fighters that they just don't want people to worry about. And then he said when he got the one opportunity to go inside of one, because he was like trying to work the reactor, reverse engineer it or like operate it, he was like, oh. He's like, this is not anything. This ain't no fighter. There's no computers. There's no screens. There's no nothing. It's just like you have to listen to how he described it.
At the very least, you could make the case that maybe this thing would give off some kind of a homing signal, and whoever left it here would come back to get it. And that hasn't happened either. It's not like they've walked into Area 51. I know a lot of people, think back to Independence Day, where there's this big, movies have this big reveal where they found, because that movie was tied very much into the kind of Roswell mythology and whatever. Alan, people believe this movie version of the government where they actually have experts. The government hires a bunch of dummies. Listen.
Yeah, the lowest bidder.
The government is like any other group of people, okay? You got some experts and you got a whole lot of dummies. That's true of any huge group of people or any big bureaucracy. But make no mistake, there are all kinds of scientists and experts who work in the government. And you would think that some of them would have been concentrated at Area 51. Again, you're right. It's very intriguing. But to me, the reason I don't spend a lot of time with that stuff is they're rabbit holes that never end. So you don't just kind of stop listening to one and go, well, got that one sewn up. That was pretty cool. Yeah, there's no shortage of holes that you can go down, and who's got that kind of time?
Yeah, I'm not saying I got closure from it. I'm just saying it really opened my eyes to like what technology could be hidden from us, from our own good.
But is it really for our own good?
But yeah, I guess that's still my question is why is that for our own good? Because if they don't know what it does and they can't get it to work,
so let's release it to the public.
Why are they hiding it?
Because someone might know how to operate it, and that type of technology in the wrong hands.
Which is what are the wrong hands?
And since when have we cared about technology being in the wrong hands?
Mark Zuckerberg.
They don't want a civilian to know how to work
Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk are the wrong hands, by the way.
Right. We live in a country where people can get anything, any weapon they need to, in the wrong hands, or like it's not gonna be this thing where there's gonna be a supervillain. It's like, aha! I have the anti-gravity device now. Everyone has to bow to my will. No, they're gonna learn how to make it and market it and sell it to us. Nobody's trying to take over the world the way Lex Luthor does. It's the way that Bezos is doing it, where he's gonna make people work for wages without benefits and stuff like that, so he can make crazy profits.
So he can go to Mars,
yeah,
and leave this world behind.
Which would be a lot easier if he had an anti-gravity device.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's all very interesting, Poundcake. It's all fun. I got to get Tom DeLonge back on the show. Remember when he left Blink-182 because he wanted to study ufology?
Well, he's one of the reasons that
the Navy videos got released.
Well, it got declassified because of him.
Mike in Parma wants to know, Poundcake, before I go to a break, what are Bob Lazar's thoughts on birds?
They don't exist.
Okay, then I'm down with this guy then.
Bob Lazar sounds like a Pokemon. Can we just get that out there?
Bob
Lazar.
Bulbasaur?
Yeah.
Bob Lazar.
Gotta catch them all! I got a break. If you want to text for anything, 35192. If you want to get to the MAC Men's Tournament, I will have tickets for you after the break. It's March 20th.